Hey bass players, I hope you guys are doing well today. So today's video is all about nut filing. Yeah, you got to file your nuts occasionally. You know, when you buy a bass online, everything looks great. What you can't see online is the setup. And Schecter, by the way, I've bought several Schecter basses and guitars, and they usually set things up perfectly from the factory, but it's cut way too high. I want to show you guys how I cut nuts. Stick around, I'm going to show you a little trick for getting rid of rattles on strings. I don't know if you guys have ever had a A or E string that rattles when you're playing it, and you can hear it's an audible rattle. Probably doesn't matter much live, but if you're in the studio, that rattle can get picked up by your pickups and come through in recordings and just kind of ruin everything. So stick around to the end of the video. I've already done the E string, and it's set up pretty well, and the action's pretty nice. These strings are probably 2 or 3 times higher on the nut than they should be. So we're going to adjust those. And why it's important to adjust these is no matter what I do with the action, with the bridge, setting up the neck straight, I'll never have this action good. I mean, this is super high action, but the bridge is probably fine. I haven't messed with it yet. It's the nut that's causing it, because you can never get it fixed if the nut's too high. So it's always one of the first things you take a look at if you've got a bass that you just can't get your action set correctly. The nut and the curvature of the neck. So here we go. All right, so like I said, I've already got this E string set up. You can use feeler gauges and all that kind of stuff. But what I normally do, press the string down on the first fret and then tap it on the 3rd fret. And you see that distance in there, and you can kind of feel that distance. That's the same distance you should have coming off the nut. Right? So if I press this string down, the distance I'm getting there should be the same distance I'm getting here, and you can see it's just nowhere close. One thing to say about this, if you're really heavy-handed, you got a really heavy technique, you're playing with a thick pick, and you're bashing out some notes, you probably don't want your nut cut as low as what I'm going to set up here. If you've got a medium to light technique, and you like to kind of dig in to get some growl, get some buzz out of the strings, that's what I do, and I set the action pretty low. I measure the action up here at the 12th fret. I'm using a gauge like this one, and I use millimeters, and I try to go for, is that coming in focus? About 1 millimeter on the lower strings, and about 1.25 on the E and the A string. So that's pretty low, but I find that works best for me and my technique. But like I said, you won't ever be able to do that on a bass if the nut is cut too high. So here we go. One of the tools you're going to need for this is a set of nut files. And, I'm using these nut files from StewMac. They're standard gauge, 105 to 46. And, they're not cheap. And I don't think anybody's are going to be cheap, because you want a good nut file. I think your first trip to a store, or a repair shop to get this done, you would have paid for a set. So if you're like me and you're a do-it-yourselfer, you just want to have that control over your basses. If you do it twice, you've saved yourself some money. So invest in a nice set of nut files. I'm going to tune this A string down so I can pull it out of the nut slot. And I'm going to pick my 85 here. We're just going to kind of go at this thing. And one of the things you need to do is kind of go through this nut at a slight angle. We're doing an angle so that we can create that break we were talking about. This headstock's angled, so the strings are breaking across the nut. It's not a big angle. You just want to make sure that it's not going straight across. Now, I don't have anything taped off here, and I don't think I need to. If you're in doubt, or you're doing it for your first time, you might tape off the first couple of frets here, tape off the fretboard, maybe even tape off up in here in case you hit something with your file. Once you've done it a few times, it's not something that I worry about a whole lot. So you don't go really deep. Always put the string back in there, tune it back up to pitch, and check. We haven't really made a dent in this so far. So we'll go back down. Pull it out of the nut slot. Keep on going. File just a little bit and check. Because if you go too far, that's when it becomes a real problem. You can fix it. You can fix it with some super glue and some graphite shavings. I've done that before, but it's not fun. So better to do it right the first time than have to fix it. You might be asking what the toothbrush is for. You got to keep your nut files clean. The shavings in there can kind of build up. I think that's good enough. So now if we're adjusting the action on this string, I can come down. So I've got this E string set at 1.25 millimeters. And the A string is sitting at about 1.75 right now. Now we can lower the bridge here. So that's exactly 1.25. That plays a whole lot better now. It's actually playable now. Let me show you a little trick here. Let's say the string was buzzing. And you're hearing some buzz right now from the tools on the table. Let's say it was buzzing. Here's a way that we could fix that. I don't do this on a regular basis. It's just if that happens to be a situation with a bass. I'll take the nut file for the G string and I'll carefully get it right in the middle of the nut there. And at an angle towards the back of the nut, I'm going to create a little slot. Definitely not at the front of the nut, because I don't want the nut to get deeper. But back here in the back, I'm trying to create a little notched edge that's just big enough for this string to get set in. And what it would do is it would keep this from rattling. It would get in that notch and it wouldn't be able to rattle back and forth in the nut. So little trick there, if you ever run into a situation where you've got your E or your A string, got this big rattle going on and you can't control it, it's a nice way to fix that. And you'll note it too, like if you're playing, you've got that rattle and you push on the string back behind the nut towards the headstock and it goes away, then that's what the problem is. So just a quick little fix there. Again, it's not much. I'll do an illustration to show you. It's just a little divot towards the back end of the nut that the string can sit into, but it doesn't change the height of the nut at the front where the string breaks coming off the front of the nut. It just creates something like a little cradle for the string to set in so it won't rattle back and forth on the edges of the nut. So I'm going to go through, do the same thing to the D and the G string. So the whole thing only takes about 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes at the max. The big thing you want to make sure you're doing is do a small bit of filing to the nut, put the string back in, tune it back up to pitch, and then check that distance. I find it easier, again, just to do it by feel, because you just don't want to go too far. You can fix it, and you can even put a new nut on, but who wants to go through all that? If you just take your time and do it slowly, you'll get your bass set up perfectly. It'll be customized just for you. And you save yourself money in the long run. If you've got any questions or a comment, just leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you again soon. Take care.